Hi, I'm Paul Fontanelli, and this is photographytv.com. So now that you've got Adobe Lightroom, this video is going to show you how to get started. And specifically, we're going to focus on two areas within Lightroom. The first is the library module, which really helps just organize and keep all of your photos so you can easily navigate and find what you're looking for within the library in Lightroom. Second, we'll show you the Develop module, which is where you'll go in and make the edits and adjustments that Lightroom is known for. So let's go ahead and launch Lightroom and get started. All right, when you first start Lightroom, you'll want to set up a new catalog. Now my view here might look slightly different than what you might see the first time you open up Lightroom, but that's just because I've done this before, and in my case, Lightroom is just asking me to tell what catalog I want to open. Now once you set up a new catalog, you won't normally even see this screen anymore. I just wanted to show it to you because I wanted to call out that very first step in setting up Lightroom, which is to set up a new catalog. So a catalog is simply the way Lightroom stores the records for your photographs, such as where your photos are located, the edits you've made to them, and any other metadata or tags that you've made in the photographs in Lightroom. So I'm just going to open up my existing catalog because I want you to see what it looks like to have one that's already established, and I'm going to take you through some of the steps needed to get yours up and running. Once you've set up your catalog, Lightroom will open up, and you can see a few different sections up at the top that you can click on. The two that I use 99% of the time are Library and Develop. So that's just what we're going to focus on today. Library is where you're going to be able to navigate and explore all of your photographs. Now obviously if you're just getting started, you're not going to have all the photographs in the library like I do. So the first thing you need to do is import your photos into the library. So by clicking down here at the bottom where it says import, you'll be able to start to import photos into the library. Now to keep this video somewhat efficient, I'm not going to talk you through every option you have to import photos, but I'll give you a couple of examples that are probably relevant to you to just get started. The first example is how you could add old photographs to your new Lightroom catalog. Now you may want to do this because Lightroom is a great way to easily navigate and look through all of your old photographs, and it also gives you the ability to make some adjustments and edits to them as well. The easiest way to import old photographs into Lightroom is to just click right here onto Add, and this will add them to the catalog. This assumes that you already have them stored in a location in a folder that you want to keep them where they're located, so you're not moving the destination of the photos, you're just simply adding them to the catalog so you can see them in Lightroom. So here's an example. If I had some old photographs stored on my computer, you can see all of the different folders that these photos are saved in. In this case, the folders are just listed by date. So I could just select the folder for 2016, hit import, and all the photos and subfolders under 2016 would be added into the catalog so I can now see them in Lightroom. I'm not actually going to do this because I've already added them into Lightroom, but this was just to show you that you could easily add old photos that you've already stored somewhere into Lightroom because you can then edit them or view them easily in the catalog. The other import option that I'll show you is when you need to import a photo from your camera or from your memory card from your camera. Once you have the memory card inserted into your computer, Lightroom will automatically detect the memory card and you'll see a preview of the photos on the card like you do here. Now these photos were taken yesterday as just a quick couple of shots that I needed for an example in one of my aperture videos, so they're not anything special, but they're good enough for this video to just show you how to import. In this case, instead of selecting Add like you did before, you'll want to select one of the copy options. If you shot the photos in JPEG, you could just simply click copy as a standalone option, but if you shot in RAW, which I highly recommend you do, let me say that again, I highly recommend to shoot in RAW, then you could actually select either of the copy options, but there is a difference between the two. Without going into too much of a technical explanation between the two, I'll just tell you that I personally always select copy and convert to DNG. The reason I do that is that during the import, Lightroom will copy my RAW file from my memory card, add it to the catalog, and it will also convert my RAW file from the format of my camera into the DNG format, which is a more universal RAW format issued by Adobe. Now there's a lot of reasons why I like to convert the RAW files into DNG. Maybe I'll make a video on that in the future, but for now, I'll just leave it at that so you know which one I use for myself, and you can do the same if you want, assuming you shoot RAW, which you should. Now, here's another tip before you hit import. I always try to add keywords to my photos, either when I import them or once they're in the library. And keywords are just any text or phrase that you want to enter that could be associated with the photo. So as I mentioned earlier, these shots were taken just as examples for me to put in another video on the explanation of aperture. So perhaps I could use a keyword phrase, aperture video examples, or I could even put my name in there since I'm in the photo. I'll show you in a minute why keywords are valuable, but once I've done this, I then just select the folder that I want to copy the photos into within the catalog. In this case, this is for August 2016, and then I hit import. These photos are now added into my catalog and show up in the library folders over on the left side of the screen with all the other folders of previous photos that I've imported. Now, I personally use folders that are set up by month and year of dates, but honestly, you can use any type of folder method that makes sense for you. Some people name folders for each of the different trips or events that they shoot, but I just use date because that's the way I'm most comfortable doing it, and it's what I've always done. The reality is, since Lightroom has so many great options to filter and find the photos, the folder strategy that you use really is not that important. Here's where I'll show you the benefit of those keywords that we entered. So let's say I wanted to find some photos from a vacation in the past. Let's say, for example, my trip to Yosemite National Park. But for some reason, I can't remember the date that we took that trip. Now, this might be a problem if I could only find photos based on these folders, since they're listed by date. But since I used keywords, when I first imported these Yosemite photos, watch how easy it is to find these. I just go to the library filter at the top, select text, and then I enter Yosemite, and voila! All of my Yosemite photos pop up because it's able to search all of the photos in this catalog for anything with the keyword Yosemite in it. Remember those few photos I imported earlier from my examples in the aperture video? I could just change the text to aperture and then those photos pop up because I had that keyword phrase in there. This is a reason that entering keyword tags on your photos in Lightroom is very beneficial. Now, there are plenty of other filtering capabilities, but for purposes of this getting started video, I just want to point out the benefit of the library module and its ability to help you easily filter and find the photos you may be looking for as long as you have the right steps in place, and keywords are one of those steps you definitely want to put in your process from the beginning. Even if you don't do the keyword when you initially imported the photos like I showed you, you can do it after the fact by just highlighting a photo, then on the right-hand side of the screen, add a keyword under this keyword tag section. All right, now there's tons of other things I could show you in the library module in Lightroom, but since this video is just designed to get you started, I'll point out just one other great feature, which is the star ratings. For each photo, you have the ability to enter a star rating. You can do that by clicking on the number of stars that you want to rate the photo, or you can actually just hit the corresponding number on your keyboard and it'll rate the photo the number of stars as well. So if I want to give this photo a 2-star rating, I just hit the number 2 and it does that. I use star ratings a ton in Lightroom because this is how I easily sort and find my favorite photos throughout the year. So you can see, I take a ton of photos. In fact, over 13,000 photos in 2015 alone. Now, because I rate them with different star ratings, I can easily filter these 13,000 photos that I took in 2015 to just find the ones that I liked the best, and I can do that by clicking Filter, then Ratings, and then I just pick the number of stars that I want to sort by. In this case, let's just say I want to sort by anything with 2 stars or better. And just like that, I've gone from 13,000 photos to about 1,400. Now, obviously 1,400 is still a lot, but now I'm only looking at the ones that I rated as 2 stars or above, so I'm not having to weed through all the bad ones to just see the ones that I want to see. This is probably a reason why I should actually get better at deleting photos, but storage is cheap and it's easier to filter them out, so I pretty much keep them all. Now, if I didn't want to look through 1400, I could do additional filters like that keyword search on top of this to filter it down even further, but you get the point. Here in the library module, I can group and see all of the different photos that I have. I can have different filtering techniques, and it's just a really easy way to navigate and explore all of the different photos that you have based on the folder systems that you've set up. All right, so we gave you some tips on importing, keywording, and star ratings. Let's now spend some time looking at the other main module that I use in Lightroom, which is the Develop module. Now, the library module was where we sorted and cataloged the photos. So the Develop module is where you make edits and adjustments to each photo. Let's use those pictures that we just imported from that video example to show you a few things in the Develop module. By selecting one of the photos, I can then click on Develop, or I can just hit the D key as a shortcut on my keyboard and it'll move us over to the Develop module. Now, I could spend hours and hours teaching you how to use the Develop module, so obviously we're not going to do that in this video, but I'll highlight just a couple of quick things to get you going in here. First, let's start by just orienting you to the layout of the screen. Now, obviously the photo selected is right there in the middle. At the bottom, you can see I can now select from other photos within this folder by just moving between each of the photos. On the left, you can see a thumbnail of your image under the navigator option. And this is also where you can tell it to zoom in on the image. If you wanted to do some pixel peeping or check your focus, you can click 1:1 or 2:1 to really zoom in as an example. Now, below that, you can see presets. Presets are just adjustments that you can click on to automatically apply to your image. As a quick example, I'll pick one of these preloaded Lightroom presets for black and white, and you can see how if you just hover over the preset, the thumbnail at the top will actually show you a preview of what that edit would look like. Here's one that looks halfway decent, so if I click on it, you'll see that it now applies that preset and all of its editing adjustments to the photo. This leads us kind of over to the right-hand side of the screen, which is where you can see all of those editing adjustments that were just applied based on that preset. So again, a preset is basically just a group of edits that are already made for you. Lightroom will give you some to get you started. Once you click it, it automatically applies all of these adjustments that you see here on the right to the photo. I use presets occasionally with editing when I want to speed things up. Many cases I might use them as kind of a starting point, but in most cases I'll actually go over to these adjustment bars on the right and manually move the sliders around that's needed for each photo, so I can really tailor it to that specific photo. All right, so I just wanted to show you what the preset did and how it applied those adjustments, but now I'm gonna undo that preset by hitting Command Z or Control Z if you're on a PC. And so now we'll just reset that photo back to its original. And you can see on the right-hand side, all those slider bars went back to neutral, and now we're back where we started with this photo. Now, I won't take you through all of those adjustment options on the right because that would just take way too long, but I'll give you a couple of things to consider as a foundation to get started. One would be the crop tool, which is this rectangular icon here at the top. I try not to crop an image too much because cropping obviously reduces the quality of the image, but in a lot of cases, a small crop can actually improve the photo, so this is where you do it in Lightroom. You can see there's a variety of different options that you can select from to crop the image, but this getting started video, I'm just going to show you that you can just drag and move the corners around to set the crop where you want it, and then you can hit done and it will apply your crop. So crop is one quick editing tool that you can use when getting started. Another important thing to start exploring are each of the adjustment tools under the basics section in the editor. So here's another area where you can change an image from color to black and white or keep it as color. So let's assume I want to keep it in color for this case. So the next thing you want to look at here is the white balance of the image. And white balance refers to the temperature and tint of the image, which are really technical explanations for what I refer to as, does the image look right or does it look off from a color perspective? If the white balance from your camera was off, you'll probably notice it. For example, let's just say if the temperature was way off like this, you can see what I mean. Clearly it just doesn't look right. So if you get a picture that the colors just look wrong, white balance is typically the first place to start to try to fix it. And if you shoot raw, you can move the white balance around as much as you want without any negative impact to the quality of your image. With JPEG, that's just not the case. So if you get a picture that needs a white balance adjustment, you better shoot raw. The next thing to point out here is exposure. This allows you to adjust how bright or dark the image is. So let's pick this picture here. You can see in this one, I'm a little darker than I'd probably want to be. So the exposure could be ticked up just a little to help brighten the image, and now you can better see my face. Now with exposure, however, I try not to move it more than plus or minus 1 to 1.5. There's times where I have to go more than that, but that's my general rule of thumb, 1 to 1.5. Because unlike the white balance, the more that I move this exposure bar, I can start to negatively affect the image. Next, this contrast. This simply magnifies or decreases the amount of contrast between the colors, the blacks and the whites within your image. This is another one that you can play with to see the effect on the image, but you don't want to push it too far. In fact, that's an important thing to learn about as you start editing is just don't push the edits too far to where they start to look over-processed. I've been guilty of this in the past. I still catch myself pushing things too far from an editing perspective on occasion. So keep that in mind and not go so far with the edits that it starts to look over-processed. So for now, I think that's enough tips to get you started in this develop module. We showed you how to explore, look at different preset options for the adjustments, how to make a couple of crop adjustments to your photos, and we showed you a few sliders to get started within the basic adjustment section on the editor. But as you can see, there's a ton of other options to explore, so get into Lightroom and start looking around, playing with some of the adjustments and see what it does so you can really start to learn Lightroom and get comfortable with all the things that you can do in the software. So there you have it. Those are a few ideas to get you started in Lightroom. So just as I mentioned, I encourage you just get in there, start exploring, start trying some of the things that we talked about here, and then go visit photographytv.com for some additional videos on Lightroom. And please subscribe to us on YouTube to stay up to date on all the videos that are coming out. Thanks for watching. Have a great time getting started with Lightroom.